Stilt Man. But we're not here to talk about them. No, we're gonna show the man without fear some respect. One of my favorite superheroes of all time. These are the top 10 greatest Daredevil villains. So number 10 is Mr. Hyde. Inspired by the famous novel, Calvin Zabu concocted a similar formula that ended up destroying his sanity and turning him to a savage, monstrous creature. Though he's not strictly a Daredevil villain, he does have a particular enmity for the man without fear. What's unique about the dynamic is that even though Mr. Hyde has tried to smash Daredevil in the concrete on multiple occasions, Matt Murdock has actually gotten Calvin off the hook for murder in the courtroom before. Number 9 is the Enforcers. The Enforcers are a group of hired assassins and extortionists that aid various employers in the takeover of New York's criminal gangs. The gang consists of the powerful Ox, the martial artist Fancy Dan, and the lasso-wielding Montana. While separate, they may be considered lightweights. Together they make a formidable alliance. They've been hired by Kingpin and Mr. Fear, and have made Daredevil's life hell on many different occasions. Number 8 is Gladiator. Gladiator, aka Melvin Potter, was one of the original villains that fought Daredevil at the start of his superhero career. After leading a life of crime, Melvin renounced his old ways and began a good, honorable life with his new wife, Betsy. However, he was blackmailed and returning to his evil ways by the Kingpin. He kidnapped Daredevil's wife and attempted to kill her, only to be stopped by Matt. It was later revealed that Mr. Fear was actually manipulating him, using chemicals to cause Melvin's outburst. After this was revealed, he returned to his normal life with Betsy and even became an ally of Daredevil. Number 7 is Mr. Fear. Larry Cranston was a rival law school student of Matt Murdock who held a grudge against him. He discovered Matt's dual identity as Daredevil, leading him to become the villainous Mr. Fear. He uses fear pheromone with gas pellets that causes insanity and mind control, and only he has the cure. When Cranston came back from his apparent death, he drove Daredevil's wife, Mila Murdock, insane, and Daredevil could not harm him because only Mr. Fear held the cure. Number 6 is Owl. Leland Owlsley, known as Owl, is a power-hungry crime lord who has become a regular opponent of Daredevil. He has been overshadowed by Kingpin, both in the underworld and as an adversary for Daredevil, but he makes up for it with his incredible cunning and ruthlessness. He also has the distinct honor of being Daredevil's first original foe, appearing in Daredevil issue number 3. Before that, Matt had been facing enemies usually found in the rogues gallery of other heroes. One of his greatest moments was when Owl captured Karen Page, forcing Daredevil to scour the city in a desperate attempt to find his girlfriend. Number 5 is Typhoid Mary. Once upon a time, there was a pretty little girl who poisoned everyone she touched with just a simple breath. Due to child abuse, she developed a dissociative identity disorder with 3 distinct personalities: Timid Mary, Lustful Typhoid, and Vicious Bloody Mary. However, these personalities are so distinct that even her heartbeat and scent are different. Typhoid Mary has a complicated love-hate relationship with Daredevil, being hired by Kingpin to make Matt Murdock fall in love with her while trying to break Daredevil at the same time. She has telekinetic abilities, is able to manipulate fire, can mind control people, and is an expert at martial arts and weapons. One of the greatest moments with Typhoid Mary was when she manipulated Matt, breaking his heart and nearly killing him. Number 4 is the Hand. The Hand is an ancient, mystical order of assassins founded in Japan almost 800 years ago. The Hand is in constant conflict with the heroic group known as the Chast, led by Daredevil's mentor, Stick. This has led him to battling against Matt Murdock as well. For a time, Daredevil took control over the Hand, trying to turn them into a force for good. Instead, Matt became corrupted and became possessed by the beast of the Hand. He was eventually able to free himself though, as good heroes always do. Number 3 is Elektra. Elektra is one of Daredevil's most fearsome enemies, as well as his former lover, and is most renowned as being the greatest assassin in the world. She was Matt Murdock's college sweetheart, who abruptly left his life after the tragedy struck her family, only to return years later as a hired assassin in the employ of Kingpin. Though they have been more allies than enemies in recent years, Matt can never forget the harsh, physical, and emotional blows struck against him by his tragically lost love. She is one of the greatest assassins in the world, as well as being one of the best hand-to-hand fighters and martial artists, and is an expert with numerous weapons, like katanas, ninja stars, and her sais. One of the most iconic moments with her is when Elektra came back into Matt and Daredevil's life, only to be killed by another one of Kingpin's assassins, Bullseye. Speaking of Bullseye, he makes our list as a number 2 villain. Bullseye is a deadly killer for hire, capable of using practically anything as a lethal projectile weapon with flawless accuracy and deadly force. He is one of the most psychotic and sadistic characters in the Marvel Universe, and has continuously been a source of pain for Daredevil. He wanted to make a name for himself as a freelance killer, and he decided the way to do this was to kill Daredevil. He was eventually beaten by Murdock, though, and this really bothered him to the point where destroying Daredevil became his new passion. He is an excellent marksman and has naturally perfect hand-eye coordination. He can use anything as a lethal weapon, like a yo-yo, spoons, even orange seeds. One of the most iconic moments with Bullseye is when he killed Elektra, the love of Daredevil's life, by stabbing her through the stomach with one of her sais. However, my personal all-time favorite moment between these two is when they play Russian roulette in a hospital room. In my opinion, it's one of the greatest comic books that Marvel has ever published. Before we get to our number 1 pick, I would like to throw out an honorable mention. Punisher. Frank Castle, aka Punisher, is usually seen as an anti-hero, but his relationship with Daredevil is strictly adversarial. Punisher originally debuted as a Spider-Man villain, but in the past, even him and Spidey have teamed up. However, him and Matt have continuously been at odds, as Daredevil is unwilling to tolerate Punisher acting as judge, jury, and executioner, while Frank Castle refuses to compromise his one-man war on crime. While they're not necessarily arch nemesis like Bullseye and Daredevil, Punisher and Daredevil have a complicated ideological difference, meaning that they can never truly be on the same side. In the number 1 pick, Daredevil's greatest villain is Kingpin. The self-proclaimed Kingpin of crime, Wilson Fisk is one of the most prominent figures of organized crime in the world. He is the king of mobsters, controlling organized crime on the entire East Coast with an iron fist. He's arguably the biggest street-level villain in the Marvel Universe, and has clashed with Spider-Man, Luke Cage, and Captain America before, but its real arch-nemesis is Daredevil. Despite his overweight appearance, he's actually solid muscle and is more than a physical match for Murdock. He's also incredibly difficult to bring down, because he has set up a front as a successful businessman and has started several different charities in New York. Because of this, it's very difficult for some people to believe that Wilson Fisk is indeed a crime boss, and see him as a victim of vigilantes like Daredevil. Perhaps Kingpin's greatest moment was when he discovered that Matt Murdock was Daredevil and completely destroyed Murdock's life. He caused Matt to lose his career, his private lifestyle, forced him out of the streets, and went on to brutally, viciously beat him down and then nearly kill him. Of course, like all good heroes, Daredevil recovered and went on to win the day. So that is my list of the top 10 greatest villains for the Man Without Fear. But what do y'all think? Is there anybody missed? Sound off in the comments down below.